They said the PlayStation 1 was outdated, pixelated, primitive. But what if I told you some of its games still hold their own even in 2025 against today's ultra-polished, tutorialistic blockbusters? That's right. These PS1 titles didn't just survive the test of time, they obliterated it. With jaw-dropping art direction, clever design tricks, and unforgettable atmospheres, these games still managed to drop jaws more than 2 decades later. And trust me, Number Y is something you truly won't believe, a graphical achievement so wild, even modern developers are still scratching their heads. So grab your memory card and blow the dust off your nostalgia, because these are 10 PS1 games that still look amazing in 2025. Let's dive in. Before ray tracing, before photogrammetry, and way before 4K textures, Metal Gear Solid was already redefining what cinematic gaming meant. Released in 1998, this PS1 classic didn't just look good for its time, it still looks impressively stylish in 2025. How? It's all about art direction and atmosphere. Kojima and his team used every trick in the book, clever camera angles, dramatic lighting, minimal HUD, and slick cutscenes to make the low-poly world feel like a gritty Hollywood thriller. The snowy helipad, the cold metallic interiors of Shadow Moses, and the haunting sound design all blend into an experience that feels bigger than the hardware it's running on. Even the character models, though simple by today's standards, are packed with personality and movement. It's one of those games where your brain fills in the details, and that's a magic modern Ultra HD realism sometimes forgets. Metal Gear Solid proves that style beats specs, and that's why it still looks incredible today. If there's one game that truly makes you forget it's running on a PlayStation 1, it's Vagrant Story. Released in 2000, right at the tail end of the PS1's life cycle, this masterpiece from Square wasn't just ahead of its time, it looked like it came from the future. What sets it apart? Its absolutely stunning use of lighting, shading, and camera angles. The game features real-time lighting effects and cinematic camera work that still puts some indie games to shame today. The environments, whether you're crawling through a Gothic cathedral or exploring ancient catacombs, feel atmospheric, dense, and alive. There are 0 pre-rendered backgrounds here. Everything is rendered in real time, which was almost unheard of back then. But maybe the biggest flex? No load screens between rooms, which made the game feel seamless and immersive long before that became a selling point. Combine that with the muted color palette and striking character designs, and you've got a game that doesn't just hold up, it still turns heads in 2025. Polyphony Digital didn't chase flashy effects, they chased realism, and that's what makes it timeless. The car models were insanely detailed for their time, with smooth curves and textures that didn't just look good, they felt accurate. The attention to detail in the car handling, track design, and even the lighting conditions created a believable driving experience that modern games still take notes from. What really seals the deal is the sheer scale: over 600 cars, dozens of tracks, and a level of polish that made it feel like a PS2 game sneaked onto a PS1 disc. While newer racing games have flashier visuals, Gran Turismo 2's subtle realism still gives it a charm and visual appeal that's hard to replicate even today. While most late-era PS1 games were pushing for realism, Final Fantasy IX did the opposite, and that's exactly why it still looks stunning in 2025. Instead of gritty polygons and futuristic vibes, it embraced a storybook fantasy aesthetic that turned every frame into a piece of art. The game's pre-rendered backgrounds are absolutely gorgeous even today. Rich with detail, depth, and atmosphere, they create a sense of place that feels alive and magical. Whether you're walking through the cobblestone streets of Lindblom or sailing across the misty oceans of Gaia, the visual style feels timeless. The hand-painted environments actually benefit from the lower resolution, giving the game an almost watercolor feel that modern HD can't ruin. Then there's the character design, stylized, expressive, and unique. Rather than chasing realism, FFIX leans into whimsy and charm, which ages far better than stiff, awkward attempts at photorealism. The cutscenes, still jaw-dropping even after all these years. It's no exaggeration to say this might be one of the best-looking PS1 games ever made, and in 2025, it still feels like you're playing through a beautiful animated film. Few games turned hardware limitations into an artistic advantage quite like Silent Hill. Released in 1999, this psychological horror classic used the PS1's weaknesses like short draw distances and grainy textures to create something that still looks disturbingly brilliant in 2025. It wasn't just creepy, it was a smart workaround to hide the PS1's limited render distance. But instead of feeling like a restriction, it became one of the most iconic visual elements in horror gaming history. The town of Silent Hill feels claustrophobic, eerie, and oppressive, an effect that still gets under your skin today. And then there's the use of lighting and shadows, which were absolutely revolutionary. Flashlight beams cut through darkness like a knife, and the grainy textures give everything a dreamlike, nightmarish quality that modern ultra-sharp graphics just can't replicate. Add to that the grotesque enemy designs, the unsettling camera angles, and a constant sense of dread, and you've got a game that doesn't just look great, it feels great in the most terrifying way. Silent Hill proves that atmosphere and style can outlast even the most high-end visuals, and in 2025, it's still an unsettling visual masterpiece. Forget zombies, Capcom's other survival horror franchise. Dino Crisis 2 brought something even more intense, dinosaurs at full sprint. But here's the real shocker. This action-packed sequel doesn't just play great in 2025, it still looks amazing too. Unlike the slow, tension-heavy first game, Dino Crisis 2 dialed the pace to 11 and traded in the claustrophobic environments for lush jungles, flooded cities, and futuristic labs, all rendered in stunning pre-rendered backgrounds. These environments are bursting with color and detail, showcasing what the PS1 could really do when developers knew how to max out its potential. And the dinosaurs? Fast, fluid, and frightening. Their animations still hold up surprisingly well, especially when dozens of them charge at you on screen with zero slowdown. The game's cinematic flare explosions, camera pans, dramatic cutscenes gives it a visual energy that's still engaging to watch even decades later. While the PS1 era was full of dark, moody games, Dino Crisis 2 stood out with its vibrant environments, sharp visual design, and relentless action, making it a game that not only aged well, but still roars in 2025. This is the one that always catches people off guard. Ridge Racer Type 4 doesn't just look good for a PS1 game, it looks like it shouldn't be possible on PS1 hardware at all. Even in 2025, it stands tall as one of the sleekest, smoothest, and most visually stunning racers of its generation. How? It's all in the art direction and lighting. While other racing games went for raw realism, R4 went for style and mood. Golden sunsets, neon-lit night tracks, glowing headlights, and reflective road textures created an aesthetic that felt way ahead of its time, and honestly, even more appealing than some modern realistic racers. The game runs at a buttery smooth frame rate, with clean UI design and a futuristic vibe that feels timeless. The color palette is rich and moody, giving the tracks an atmospheric depth most PS1 games couldn't dream of. And the car models? Surprisingly slick and detailed, with smart use of shading that gives them a premium finish. In 2025, R4 still looks like a visual statement, a flex from Namco saying, "Look what we can do with 32 bits. It's not just one of the best looking PS1 games. It's one of the most stylish racing games ever made, period." When it comes to fighting games that age like fine wine, Tekken 3 is still wearing the crown, and in 2025, it continues to look shockingly clean and fluid even against much newer titles. Released in 1998, it was the game that made you realize the PlayStation 1 wasn't just for blocky models and jagged edges, it was capable of delivering smooth, fast, and visually impressive combat. The character models were a huge step up from its predecessors, with more polygons, better animation, and a level of expression and fluidity that blew minds at the time. Even now, the motion capture work holds up. It feels alive, responsive, and grounded. Every punch, kick, and combo has real weight. And the animations transition so smoothly, it's hard to believe it's running on such old hardware. But what really keeps Tekken 3 visually impressive is its stages, each with a unique style, color palette, and mood. From urban rooftops to ancient temples, every arena is memorable and rich in personality. Combined with a slick HUD and a thumping soundtrack, it all adds up to a presentation that still punches above its weight in 2025. In a world of flashy effects and bloated visuals, Tekken 3's clean design and rock-solid gameplay prove that great graphics don't always mean more pixels, they mean smart direction. Cinematic horror meets RPG brilliance, that's Parasite Eve, a game that looked amazing in 1998 and still looks stunningly atmospheric in 2025. Square took the same cinematic magic they used in Final Fantasy and cranked it into a modern-day horror setting, resulting in a game that feels more like a Hollywood sci-fi thriller than a typical JRPG. The standout feature? Those pre-rendered backgrounds, set in a dark, snow-covered New York City. Every environment feels rich, moody, and alive. Whether you're wandering through a dimly lit museum, a burning opera house, or the eerie, deserted streets of Manhattan, the game bathes you in a heavy, cinematic tension that even modern games struggle to capture. Character models are sharp and expressive, but the real showstoppers are the monsters twisted, grotesque bio-creations that still look creatively terrifying today. And the cinematic cutscenes? Absolute jaw-droppers. They were among the best the PS1 ever had, blending CGI with dramatic storytelling in a way that made the entire experience unforgettable. In 2025, Parasite Eve still stuns with its moody visuals, gripping art direction, and hauntingly beautiful presentation. It's not just a relic, it's a visual gem that continues to shine brighter with age. You might not expect a game full of goofy monkeys and bright colors to make this list, but Ape Escape isn't just visually charming, it's a technical and artistic showcase that still holds up in 2025. It was one of the first PS1 games to require the DualShock analog controller, and it used that extra control to create a world that was surprisingly rich, dynamic, and full of life. What makes Ape Escape stand out visually is its fully 3D environments not pre-rendered. Not fixed camera angles, but real-time, explorable spaces that feel smooth and colorful. The levels are bright, vibrant, and packed with movement. From dynamic weather effects to interactive objects and cleverly hidden monkeys. The art style leans into a cartoon aesthetic, which ages way better than most early realism attempts. Character animations are fluid, expressive, and full of personality. Watching Spike swing his net, roll, jump, and climb through the game's inventive worlds still feels satisfying today. And the monkey designs? Iconic, hilarious, and surprisingly detailed for a game this old. Ape Escape proves that creativity, color, and energy can carry a game's visuals far beyond its hardware limitations. In 2025, it's still a joy to look at and even more fun to play. And there you have it, 10 PS1 games that still look amazing in 2025. Proof that great art direction, smart design, and creative vision can outlast any hardware limit. These classics didn't just survive the test of time, they crushed it. Which one blew your mind the most? Let us know, and don't forget to hit that like button if nostalgia just hit you hard.